think that you press a button. There's a Marvel button in a room where you go, and a character comes out. Marvel made it. It's the Marvel button.
I'll say this. Every word of dialogue in those scripts was mine.
I can tell you that I wrote a few lines myself above every panel.
Jack, answer me truthfully.
I wasn't allowed to write.
Did you ever read one of the stories after it was finished? I don't think you did.
Is complete and utterly jackass.
The biggest risk was embarrassment.
You know, Marvel was making all kinds of money.
So he wouldn't let me do it.
Why is that?
I thought it was absurd that they gave me the task to get Spider-Man sales up. I get the sales to arguably the highest that anybody at that point was doing and set records. And yet it still wasn't good enough.
Because I think Marvel was like, it's our gimmicks that are selling these. We put 5 X-Force covers out, and we put 5 Spider-Man covers out, and we put 8 X-Men covers out. It's us. It's not you. It was us.
Because they're a bunch of jerks over at Marvel. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but you know what?
Maybe that's too generous.
This is the gangster ethics that I was just talking about.
I don't know, maybe it's Disney, huh?
I'm not mad. I'm not.
Well, the sexy story.
But a lot of people may not know this.
All right, I had a ghost artist, which I'd like to refute now. His claim to fame is that he created the Joker, Jerry Robinson. And Jerry Robinson created the Joker playing card, which I'll let you look at in a moment. It's over here. I created, Bill Finger, my writer, came to me at the beginning with a picture of Conrad Veidt, who is the actor in a Victor Hugo movie called The Man Who Laughs, by Victor Hugo. And as you can all see, it's an exact replica of the comic I drew way back in 1939, 1940, and that was my creation of the Joker. Jerry Robinson, to his dying day, will say he created, and look, here's my answer to him. Had Jerry come to me first with the Joker playing card, the Joker would have looked like this, and not like this. So apparently I was first and he came second.
Well, since this isn't a court of law, I might add one thing, though.
I didn't prove my case, right?
No,
Just
you didn't.
my
No, it's not that. But Jerry also is a very dear friend of mine and a fine artist,
Glad he's
as
a
you
friend
know.
of yours.
And we'll probably do an interview with
No
Jerry,
friend of
too.
yours is a friend of mine. That goes automatically, particularly Jerry Robinson.
But whoever created it, the point is...
No, I just proved my case that Bill Finger came to me with the photograph, not whoever, Bob Kane and Bill Finger created the Joker.
Now what I mean is...
We have definite proof, conclusive proof in my book.
What I'm trying to say is...
You're cupping out, Stan. You're protecting Jerry now.
No, I'm not protecting anybody.
I don't mind that.
I'm protecting myself.
He's a nice guy despite himself.
No, the only thing is I thought it was very interesting to see that picture of Conrad Veidt and the way the Joker looks. I had never heard about that playing card or anything. That's new to me.
Well, Jerry said he created, and that was his claim, the playing card. In other words, had he came to me first with the playing card, the Joker, as you know him today, would look like the jester of the playing card. But he didn't. He came to me after the fact, and we used it as the Joker's calling card after I created with Bill Finger the picture of Conrad Veidt, and The Man Who Laughs.
Gee,
I rest my case.
I can see, because of this interview, the two of us with Jerry will be on 60 Minutes one day. Who knows where
I love that.
lead.
I'd love to get him on 2020 or 10 and 10 with 2 midgets, whatever.
A fact that I can no longer work within the comics industry. This is the gangster ethics that I was just talking about. After seeing great creators go to their graves, cheated and disillusioned.
Strong language, gangster ethics.
Gangster ethics. And I'm talking about the original gangsters, as I believe the young people like to phrase it these days.
Strong language, gangster ethics.
Gangster ethics. The Meyer Lanskys and the Legs Diamonds. Ethics. The ethics of the comics industry have not changed since those days when they were cheating Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who were two teenagers from Cleveland who created Superman. And National Comics, as I believe they were called at the time, they waited until Siegel and Shuster were going off to fight in the Second World War. And then they told them that, well, we need to own the characters while you're away, but you'll get them back as soon as you return. These are the ethics that the industry runs on, and they've not changed significantly in 70 years. Ethics.
Characters that ended up on the big screen and in TV shows.
That's true. Why haven't I gotten royalties for those?
Oh, you don't? You don't get royalties?
No, I get royalties now and then. But when you think of how much it should be, I should get big royalties.
Someone needs to make a call for you.
I think so. No, when they come and they give me a royalty check, like Ra's al Ghul, who was the villain of the first of the last 3 Batman movies, when they did that movie, the publisher of DC Comics came over and gave me $100,000. Gave me a check, handed it to me. Right? There was no contract. Do you have any say in but when they had Marvel had Havoc appear in a couple of movies, nothing, not a dime.
Now why is that?
I created Havoc because there are a bunch of jerks over at Marvel. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but you know what?
Cheating.
DC Comics, $100,000. Marvel, nothing.
Well, that doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right to me.
No.
What is it about DC that's so nice and so bad about Marvel? I don't get it.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Maybe it's Disney.
I'll make a call for you, Neal. I'll make a call. We'll set it up.
Guys at Marvel, we might checks for those Havoc appearances.
Yeah, it'll be a conference call, and I'll dial you in.
Because there are a bunch of jerks over at Marvel. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but you know what?
And I'm talking about the original gangsters, as I believe the young people like to phrase it these days.
I don't know. Maybe it's Disney.
Cheating.
And she says, well, you know, that's not very professional. I said, and you're a very mean-spirited lady. Go away. Go suck an egg. And I hung up on her. First of all, nobody ever talks about this, but the comic book industry from its very start was programmed to make cowards out of the people who practice it. From Simon & Schuster on, everybody was always made afraid. If you don't do what we tell you, work for hire, you're out of a job and you'll never work in this industry. There was always the 2 big monolithic companies, Marvel and DC. If you pissed one of them off, you only had the other one to go to, so the other one knew it was getting you for nothing. That's what I hated about Jim Shooter. When he was the editor at Marvel, he bullied people who had no place else to go. It's an industry that has been based on transigence and transitory need. Here today and gone tomorrow. You throw it out. Your mother threw this crap out. That's what it was all about. So it couldn't be worth anything. So artists were always made to feel that they were insignificant, that what they did was unimportant. No one ever said to them, you are producing American literature. You are producing a Native American art form, something that has intrinsic worth because it is one of a kind. The rest of the world imitates it and lauds it and honors it. There's no stamp with Milton Caniff on it. There's no stamp with Crazy Cat on it.
Culture at Marvel was changing. They didn't like how popular we've become. I mean, it's the easiest way. I can dance around it, but the bottom line was the sales were following Todd, Rob, and Jim, and the other guys. And they were now, I think they thought that gimmicks sold covers, so a glow-in-the-dark Ghost Rider and an acetate, Power Man with an animation cell. Those fell flat. They didn't do like high sales, because I think Marvel was like, it's our gimmicks that are selling these. We put 5 X-Force covers out, and we put 5 Spider-Man covers out, and we put 8 X-Men covers out. It's us. It's not you. It was us. And I think what happened in '91 has dictated the last 20 years of Marvel Comics, and how artists, you don't get to tell us jack anymore. It's a writer-driven TV room concept where we build a corporate strategy, and therefore really nobody gets to take a bow. Marvel takes the bow. I tell people all the time, Marvel has turned into a company that wants you to think that you press a button. There's a Marvel button in a room where you go, and a character comes out. Marvel made it. It's the Marvel button. And that's really kind of like, they don't ever say Rob Liefeld created Deadpool. I got to tell people, Rob Liefeld created Deadpool. They want you to believe that there was a button in a room that you hit, and Deadpool spit out, and Cable spit out, and they don't really do a lot of new stuff.
Spider-Man's is the #1 selling book that I'm writing pencil and ink in. It had just set some record, and yet it wasn't good enough for Marvel. They started saying, Todd, you got to change the stories, you got to change the tonality of it, maybe start going back and putting Spider-Man a little bit more classic and I thought it was just absurd. I thought it was absurd that they gave me the task to get Spider-Man sales up. I get the sales to arguably the highest that anybody at that point was doing and set records, and yet it still wasn't good enough. I thought it was just absurd. Rob, Eric, and I, we were having these conversations, and then the conversation after a while was the what if. What if all of us did our own books and we did them in the same place? Nobody's done that yet. Nobody's done that yet. We go to New York to basically say we're quitting, we're leaving, we're going to start our own brand. Nobody's done that yet. I thought it was just absurd. Nobody's done that yet. And we basically tell them we're about to leave and we're going to go start our own, create our own project.
Cheating.
The sexy story, it is about the creator and what they create, and that they own it and they control it and they can do what they want with it.
You own everything you do.
I thought it was just absurd.
Let Todd do what he wants.
I thought it was just absurd.
They didn't want the artist to shine. They wanted Spider-Man to shine. They didn't want Todd to shine. Off of the backs of people that were creating all these properties for them and creating these stories for them, the writers or artists. You know, Marvel was making all kinds of money. The wheels were already turning about, look at the sales on Spider-Man. Spider-Man's been around since the 60s. And suddenly it's selling, 1 million copies. Why is that?
Because I was on the next book, so I kind of mattered.
It's because of me.
So when Image became Image, when all these people left Marvel at the same time,
Image was structured in such a way that the partners, we had two rules. You own everything you do, and you don't screw with the other partners. Now it was official. You own everything you do.
And it never hit the mainstream like Image Comics did. And the fact that to this day, it is about the creator and what they create, and that they own it and they control it and they can do what they want with it.
Nobody's done that yet.
I think that's the legacy that we're all the most proud of. And I think that attitude has bled into other media as well.
You own everything you do.
Nobody's done that yet. I thought it was just absurd.
Well, the sexy story is it was all risk. All right, it's like these guys went off, they did their own thing. It's like, the reality is, even looking back in 2020, we could have gone back. The biggest risk was embarrassment and the lack of opportunity. That was really the biggest risk. You own your IP, you own your idea, you can do whatever you want.
Nobody's done that yet.
You own everything you do.
And it was a very specific time in comics history and pop culture history where that could work. In some cases, the creator was more popular than the character. So you had this perfect storm. And that's how Image was able to happen. It was a risk to a certain degree in that because the rewards, at least reality or fantasy, were great if it worked. So we always had that in the back of our minds that if it didn't work, it was a failure. But the potential of how great it could be. And for me, it's like it completely re-energized me for comics. It completely gave me a reason to be back in comics.
Nobody's done that yet.
So you had this perfect storm. The sexy story
is to be a fan contingent who revels in the idea of attacking major figures. And maybe that's too generous. Stan has taken one hell of a lot of heat on the internet from people who obviously don't know it. And their mantra is that Stan did nothing. That Marvel was entirely built on the ideas of other people like Kirby and Ditko. They gave Stan everything, and he just signed his name to it. I want to tell you that, and I'm sure you've read some of this stuff. It's complete and utterly jackass. It's complete and utterly jackass. There is no credibility to it. There is no credibility to it. And this is how I put it in context. Those sons of bitches were not there looking over the shoulders of those people, Stan and Kirby, Ditko. I was there. I saw what happened. And I can confirm to you that their premise that Stan did nothing is completely and utterly bogus. Don't buy it for a moment. He was one of the hardest working guys I think I've ever met.
The sexy story.
Was it a hit right away?
Yes. And I'll tell you something funny about that. Nobody wanted me to do it. My publisher, when I suggested the idea, he said, that's the worst thing I ever heard of.
Why?
People hate spiders. You can't call a hero Spider-Man. When I said I wanted him to be a teenager, that's where he started, he said to me, you don't understand, Stan. A teenager can only be a sidekick. He can't be the hero.
Robin.
Then when I said I want him to have a lot of personal problems and nothing ever goes right for him, he said, Stan, don't you know what a hero is? So he wouldn't let me do it. I had to wait till later. We had a book we were going to drop, and when you do the last issue of a book, nobody
cares.
You
call them books, right?
Well, I call it comic book, yeah. Nobody cares what you put into it, so I featured Spider-Man on the cover, and I forgot about it. Well, a month later, the sales figures came in. It had been our biggest seller. So my publisher came to me and said, Stan, do you remember that character that we both liked so much, Spider-Man? Why don't you do a series? And that's how it happened.
Who came up with the way he looks?
Steve Ditko. Steve designed the character.
The colors?
Everything about the costume. And he also gave it such personality, the way, it's an interesting story. Jack Kirby was probably the greatest comic book artist around. And I worked with him. We collaborated on so many strips, the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, the X-Men. And I wanted Jack originally to do the Spider-Man, but I didn't want Spider-Man to look heroic. I wanted him to be just a typical nebbishy kind of guy. And I mentioned that to Jack, but Jack was so used to drawing Captain America and characters like that. When he gave me the first couple of pages, I said, no, you got him looking too heroic. So I gave the strip to Steve. It didn't matter to Jack. Nobody knew it would be a big strip, and Jack was busy doing all the other books. Steve was just perfect for it. He got that feeling of an average guy who turned into a hero and still had problems.
Do artists make a lot of money?
Now they do, I think, yeah.
Now, why am I telling you this? Besides the fact that I have to kill a little time. If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it.
So he wouldn't let me do it.
Don't let some idiot talk you out of it. Now, that doesn't mean that every wild notion you come up with is going to be genius, but if there is something that you feel is good, something you want to do, something that means something to you, try to do it, because I think you can only do your best work if you're doing what you want to do, and if you're doing it the way you think it should be done. And if you can take pride in it after you've done it, no matter what it is, if you can look at it and say, I did that, and I think it's pretty damn good, that's a great feeling. So don't let idiots talk you out of something that you think is good. By the same token, that doesn't mean every single thing you think is good is going to win a prize. Got to have a little judgment there.
George and I signed a contract with Marvel Comics and Image. They could take us to the cleaners. They could cancel the book. They could demand money back. They could do all kinds of horrible things to us. Instead, what Marie Javins said to us was, look, just get the book out as soon as you can. We believe in the quality of the book, and we want to see the best job possible. And if it takes an additional week or 2 or 3, get it done and have it come out when it's ready. That is the cherished respect for freelancers that Todd Mcfarlane put forward so many months ago in CBG, and which to a very large extent, Image has not been able to really live up to. They may have set goals that were too high for themselves. That's not a crime. There's no crime in that. What is a crime is to state that I have been putting forward lies and rumors about them, and when asked point blank to name one, ultimately Todd couldn't. That is what you should be concentrating on here today. That the reason for this debate is a non-existent one. There is no reason for everyone to be here. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. But I personally don't like having my veracity put on the line in print, and then when asked to present any serious challenge to it, we get nothing. Nothing. I personally am just a touch offended by that.
Okay, using the Lenny Dykstra. Okay, we'll be Lenny Dykstra. Yeah, we swing at the ball in the dirt. But the point is that at least we got to the point where we're in the playoffs. Now, I find that what happened was when I first started to think about Image Comics with Rob Liefeld and Eric Larson, we were the three spearheads. My idea was that we wanted to have a union. I just felt that the working conditions in terms of both pay, the way that we were given information to the companies, the way that they asked for information from us was not right. When we went into the office with Terry Stewart that fateful day in December to quit, his opinion and his quote to us was, "It's an entertainment business and this is how it's always been. We exploit you and it will always be that we will exploit you." And for Tom DeFalco, well, it was good enough for me, why shouldn't it be good enough for you? Using that mentality, folks, we would still have people of the black persuasion in the back of a bus. You know why? Because it would have been easy for us to say, that's the way it is, that's the way it's going to always be. Well, I'm here to say that that's wrong. That we can do things and justify them on a business need is completely wrong. That we now exist and we are open now to criticism. We're open up to criticism first and foremost, that we should at least have an acknowledgement that we even exist. That there's the respect now that they get to hand out their books 2 weeks late, I feel in some small way is because of the response of the other companies, Defiant and Valiant and Image Comics and Legend and Dark Horse, that have now come out and the Ultraverse and have now grown into this thing saying that the creative people can now take back what is now rightfully theirs. As far as some of the opinions that I give and proving your lies, Peter, in your CPGs, I don't care if those CPG columns, excuse me, I don't care if those CPG columns with you, that I'm afraid and shun down the people who give their opinions and won't sign their names to it. If you'd made a phone call, you would see that I now have a column in The Wizard that's an opinion column, not unlike your own. So that thing that you say that I dislike so much has now become something that I now do. I thought it was just absurd.
Maybe that's too generous.
So you had this perfect storm.
Cheating
thing.
Well, that doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right to me.
No.
I thought it was just absurd.
Those sons of bitches.
Because they're a bunch of jerks over at Marvel. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but you know what?
Don't let some idiot talk you out of it.
And I'm talking about the original gangsters, as I believe the young people like to phrase it these days.
Why is that?
I don't know, maybe it's Disney, huh?
Is complete and utterly jackass.
Cheating.
Share input. Worst episode ever.